Welcome to the Decision Lab podcast, the sanctuary for wellness professionals like therapists, coaches, creators, and more who are looking to over-deliver to their clients.
We uncover the truth behind cutting-edge wellness products by going straight to the founder.
We use our backgrounds in neuroscience, chemical engineering, and marketing to ask the hard questions in order to eliminate bias, misinformation, and fancy marketing language.
Allowing you to make better wellness decisions and recommendations for yourself and your clients.
So if you're a leader in the health and wellness space, welcome. This podcast was designed for you.
Join us every week for interviews that will change how you think about wellness. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Decision Lab podcast. Today, we're talking to Keith Chaney. And Keith is a co-founder and the CEO of a Techstars-backed startup platform called Pivo, which is short for Personal Advisory Board. And before Peadbo, Keith earned a Bachelor of Science in Industrial Engineering, so he's a fellow engineer. I think it's our first engineer actually on the podcast, so I'm really excited about that too.
Oh, nice. It's an honor.
So he graduated from Kettering University and earned an MBA from Carnegie Mellon University Tepper School of Business. And he's led organizational transformations at McKinsey & Company and most recently partnership strategy at Google. Keith has made it his personal mission to help close the opportunity wealth gaps, especially for historically underestimated and excluded populations. He has shared his subject expertise on several stages, including Techstars, JP Morgan, South by Southwest, Startup Runway, and so many more. He's also been featured in Bloomberg, Yahoo, Finance, and Business Insider. Welcome to the Decision Lab podcast, Keith. We are so grateful and excited to have you here.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here, and I appreciate the invite.
What a legend. I love the intros. They get me so freaking hyped up. I'm like,
no, you. Go. I was like, man, she's talking about me.
You're like, I've done some cool stuff.
Yeah, you've done some really cool stuff. Something I like to start with, Chloe likes to go into like vision and stuff. I like to ask about if your parents had to describe you in 3 words, what would they describe you as?
Oh, man, put me on the spot. My parents would describe me as funny, kind, or selfless, one version of those. And I feel weird saying that out loud about myself, but I think this is what they think. And then I'd probably family oriented, man. I'm huge on family. I've volunteered to plan our next family reunion, and I try to get home as much as I can. That's everything.
That's wild. I read that Flint, Michigan is home. Is that correct?
Yeah, Flint, Michigan, North Side.
Let's go. That's awesome. How does family play a role in what you do business-wise, entrepreneurship-wise, startup-wise, like that family orientation?
Yeah, no, I think, it's family is foundational. It's funny. I talk often when I speak about Pivo about I'll talk about the things that my family wasn't able to provide, meaning they didn't have experience working in certain companies that I ended up in. But I never want to neglect that my family is responsible for like the person that I am, my principles, my character, the way that I treat people, and the way that I father, the way that I husband, all those things I think I got from my family, and they're what make me who I am and make me proud to be from Flint and proud to bear my last name.
I love that. Yeah,
I hear that kind of stuff.
I think one of the favorite, I was, going through Pivo's Instagram, and I saw you have this post and the shirt that self-made is a myth. And
Absolutely.
I fucking loved it. I was like, this is awesome. So maybe just tell us a little bit about like where that came from. Was this an aha moment? Was there like a number of experiences that led you to just realize like how valuable community is in building business?
Yeah. And it's that, I've learned, in many cases the hard way, that you can't do it alone. You could be the smartest, you could be the hardest working. And if you're not intentional about building community and building a support system, you still likely won't be able to reach your goals. But I think, specifically, it's important to me that we spread that message because there's so much of the other message. You think about social media, you think about LinkedIn, and there's far too many people that claim to be self-made, or, you'll see it in an article. I remember vividly a few years ago, I think it was Forbes had a certain celebrity on the cover and they called her the youngest self-made billionaire. And if you know who this person is, you had to like just laugh out loud. Like, are we supposed to pretend we don't know all the things that she has access to, and the relationships and the resources, and her team probably has a team. And I just think it's really unhealthy to portray that narrative as opposed to the one that says, man, I had this person helped me here, this person helped open a door, this person made a connection, because that's the way you really succeed. And so I think it's dangerous to send people down a path that doesn't actually exist to success.
Damn, I love that. I love that whenever I saw it on your website and Dr. Laura talked to me about it. Like, I love that. Self-made's a myth. Who helped make you?
Gosh, I don't know if we have enough time. So, you know,
give us the highlights.
I mentioned my family, but beyond my family, you know, members of my fraternity. You know, I think about when I was in college, I went to a school where, you know, almost no one looked like me, but I had my fraternity brothers who had shared experiences, and I got to see some of them graduate and go on and do amazing things, and that helped to inspire me to believe that I could do it. I've had multiple bosses or skip levels who, you know, beyond just kind of telling me what to do, they actually poured into me. They actually taught me the things that would help me to navigate my future. My wife, my daughters, you know, they're 3 and 5, but I learned from them things about myself that I don't know that anybody else would be equipped to teach me, because they're such a mirror. Man, since I've started this founder journey, people have gone out of their way to promote my messages, even if it's liking or reposting something to help us to gain more exposure for what we're doing. And so, yeah, I have so many people to thank for anything that I've accomplished. And it's probably far too many for me to try to list.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm just curious. It's always
Yeah. No,
fun to
man,
hear
so
people's
many.
support networks.
I mean, look, this opportunity, right? You know, you have a podcast, you have an audience, and you've allowed me to talk about what I'm doing here. And so whatever the outcomes are for the company, you own a portion of that. You've contributed to the growth and the exposure of what we're doing. And so, you know, you're what both of you are these people that'll go on that list, you know, ultimately.
Hell yeah. We appreciate
That's
that.
beautiful. Yeah, and we're happy to help and like spread the message. And I think what you have to say is so important, that it's like you don't have to do it alone. You
No.
know,
And you can't.
you can't. You absolutely cannot.
Absolutely.
Did you learn that the hard way? How do you know you can't?
Well, I think because, you know, I thought that because of some of the things you hear people talk about, that if I, you know, started my career and I just put my head down and I outworked everyone, that there would be this meritocracy, and that because I was valuable, I would receive the promotion or I would receive the credit. And what you end up learning is, man, you get passed over by people who, you know, frankly aren't maybe as talented or as good as you, because they have relationships or they have, you know, they know someone in the room where decisions are being made. You know, I think even as far back as undergrad, I remember senior year, you know, we're applying for jobs and I'm applying with this resume and, you know, interview skills. And then I realized people in my class, they don't apply. They just knew someone and got to skip. And I call it side door access. It's like when I was in college, we would throw parties and they were pretty popular and there would be a line outside. But if you knew me or you knew one of us who was throwing a party, then you could make the call and we would come outside and grab you and you'd cut the line. And I think that's how it works for a lot of people. And I don't blame them for leveraging their relationships, but I think it's a mindset shift that needs to occur in terms of put your head down, do the hard work, make sure you meet the qualifications, but also let people know how they can help you, because you'll be surprised how many people are actually, you know, hungry for opportunities to support people that are looking to do great things.
That is so freaking true. Is there any secret code or secret way that you have learned to ask for help or let people know how they can help you? Like a sentence you say or a 30-second commercial or anything like that?
Yeah, so one of the, and I appreciate you throwing me this alley-oop here, but one of the practices that has been transformative for me and my professional success is actually a feature of Peadbo, and that's the personal newsletter. And so startups and companies in general, they understand that if you want to succeed, you need to make sure your investors, your potential customers, they know how things are going. You know, they like to know about your wins, but they also like to know about your challenges. And they'll typically, if they're able to, connect you with resources or provide advice to help you win. And I recognize that that's something that people should be doing. And so I send out multiple personal newsletters that are pretty much, TLDR, here's what I've been up to the last quarter, some wins, maybe for my friends and family newsletter, pictures of my family, travel plans. But then I may say, hey, we're also looking for, contacts in universities or in HR and ERGs for the startup to help us grow. If you know any, let me know. And then just kind of leaving it there and blasting it out to 100 people who may not work in tech, but they do want to see me reach my goals. And when I tell you people that I would have never expected to be able to help just because they know, have made some amazing connections that have led to contracts and new business for us. And I often tell our users, people say it's not what you know, it's who you know. And I challenge that to say it's not who you know, it's who knows what you need. And so if you don't tell people and make them aware of how they can help you, they're going to assume you're fine, because that's the convenient place, is to assume that everybody I know has what they need and they don't need anything. But once you make people aware, I now feel a bit responsible for making sure that if I can help you, I make those connections.
That is awesome. I absolutely, I just wrote that down as a note. I'm absolutely about that, because you're so right. I do it for like my investors and tech, and like I've done that all before for those people, but not other, like not a personal one.
And even
like, what was I thinking?
Even just in terms of the relationships that matter to you, but maybe you don't necessarily see. So I have a lot of family back in Michigan. I have a lot of aunts and uncles. They're on one social network that I'm typically not spending a lot of time on, but I'll send them the newsletter with pictures of the girls, and I'll let them know what we did this summer, maybe again travel plans, or just things to let them know what the hell Keith is up to in DC. And when I tell you, they love those things so much. It's been a really cool way just to keep those relationships warm and nurture them while busy with all the million other things I have going on.
I love that. It is so hard to keep in touch with everybody and make them feel special and like they're thought of. This is brilliant. I am definitely implementing this.
Gotcha. There's a tool for that.
I love the pitch there. Are there any other habits? I mean, you've worked at Google, you've worked at where you're backed by Techstars, you worked at McKinsey & Co. Like, are there any other habits or mindsets or things like this that have been helpful for you along your journey as a founder and someone who is doing really cool stuff?
So definitely kind of the core element of what we do at Pivo, and that's the personal advisory board. I recognize that successful people, a lot of CEOs, a lot of executives have this behavior. They may call it a mastermind group or, different names for it, but there's actually a recurring segment in Wall Street Journal called Personal Board of Directors. And what they'll do is they'll interview some of the most successful people in business. And those people, without fail, will start to name people you've never heard of that have been on their personal board as they ascended in the business world. And I recognized that was something that would be valuable for me. And so now I have a board. My board consists of, my skip levels from old jobs, so they know my work. They know where I can grow professionally. One of my best friends from business school, so he's more of a peer, but he's just super smart, and he, has a lot of connections in certain spaces. And like once a quarter for about an hour, they kind of kick my ass and make sure that I'm thinking about where my blind spots may be. They're offering to make connections, and they kind of leave turning my success into a group project. And that's been a really awesome phenomenon to know that there are people in important rooms that are thinking, I got to make sure Keith gets that thing done because I'm on his board and it's my responsibility.
That's amazing. I really love that. What have been some of your blind spots or your challenges that you've really had to overcome, in business and entrepreneurship?
Gosh, so many. And so many still that are blind spots that I'm sure are looming over my shoulder right now. Startup life it's hard. It's lonely. And then there's just the weight of knowing that if I don't do my job, nothing happens. Versus, some of my previous roles where I worked for these, large corporations where you almost felt like if I don't do my job, no one cares or no one, things would still happen. And so it's just a very different weight. And so I've had to learn founder-led sales. I've never worked in sales. So still trying to figure out how to do that. I've had to learn to delegate. When you have a startup, often it feels like your baby. And so you feel like you need to have visibility in every decision. And that is the most inefficient way to do this thing. So now I try to just offload as much as I can so that I can focus on working on the business as opposed to working in the business. And then just, product development, gosh, UI, UX, how to manage people that you care about. One thing about our team is my co-founders are literally my big sister and two of my best friends from college. And so
No way.
I actually like a lot of people say never mix business with family and close relationships. Fortunately, I've had a pretty good experience with that. But it does take some learning just to know, okay, how do you kind of create the boundary and make sure you're still focused on the business when it's business time, but then when it's not, it's absolutely not. And you just don't, it doesn't exist.
I'm super curious, like, what are your boundaries with your sister? Like, how have you set those boundaries? This might be helpful for anybody wanting to start a company with family or a partner.
Yeah.
We're pretty good about just saying the thing. And I think our relationship has always been like that. And so, like, we could literally, at dinner go from talking about our communication strategy to talking about planning the family reunion to talking about our children. And so we have a really good, I guess, we're good at just being able to turn one off, turn the other on. But for others, I try to just keep it very, all right, who are you right now? Are you my chief operating officer, or are you my frat brother and we're planning a trip? Because those are two different, worlds, and I don't know that they need to necessarily coexist. So I might email you some deadlines to one email and send you the itinerary for the trip to another, and just know those are two different Keiths. So, respond accordingly.
Hey, compartmentalize. I like that.
That's it. You got to.
IFS back. So something that, especially from our the men that we interview, it's almost always business problems and challenges they run into. From my personal experience though, like I remember I had a startup that failed. I was laying on the ground, like had my first panic attack ever, and I was like freaking the fuck out. Like it was terrible.
Yeah.
Have there been any mental and emotional health challenges that you've had to overcome or work through as a founder, or just in your life, not even just as a founder?
Definitely. And I think as a founder, that two things are top of mind, and I don't know that I have them mastered, but I think I have a pretty good grip on them. First thing is you can't allow your identity and that of the company to be the same. Like there are so many factors external, completely beyond my control, that will play a huge role in whether or not Peadbo sinks or swims. And if I do my part, then those things are still potentially gonna play a role. And so I can't allow a bad day for Pivo to be, that means I'm not good, or that means that I'm a failure. And it's tough because I've been at this for so long. I go to conferences and people say, hey, Pivo, like they don't even know my name. And so to some people, those two identities are the same, but it can never be true for me. I have to recognize that this is a thing that will go where it goes, and I'll do my best to drive it, but I'm still gonna be me at the end of the day, and that's just the way it is. The second thing I think is knowing your non-negotiables. There's always something that needs to be done. It always seems super urgent, and so I try to make sure that one, I'm able to go to the gym 2 days a week for at least 2 hours in the morning. If I'm in DC, I want to do pickups and drop-offs for my daughters. And so I literally block off, an hour and a half on my calendar on weekdays in the morning and in the afternoon so that I don't have to steal that time from them. And then a few evenings a week, it's like no work. We're just going to watch Inside Out 2, and then we're going to do whatever they want to do, because this is easily the most important job I have. The company is probably like fifth or sixth. And so I can't steal from my wife and my family because I want to give to people. It's just not something I'm going to allow myself to do.
I like that.
Yeah.
I always love to, so identity, making sure you don't identify with the thing that you're building, and then also having non-negotiables in relation to your boundaries, honestly, around work and the other compartments of your life. It sounds
Yeah.
like that's been super helpful for you.
Yeah. And I want to be realistic. Sometimes you'll have to, be flexible, right? Sometimes a call is that important where you do need to take it. But I think it's just having that discernment to be able to recognize. It's like the quadrant. You have important and you have urgent. And if it's not both, it can probably wait. Then you got to be able to do that quick assessment to say, is this both urgent and important? Or is this something where I can absolutely respond to this email after the girls go to sleep and I'm back on my time?
Yes, I love that. That's so helpful.
Yeah, that's awesome. I like that. So before we dive into, I want to learn all about Pivo. We'll dive into the technical stuff. Before we do, the mission behind Pivo seems interesting, to help close the opportunity and wealth gaps, especially for historically underestimated and excluded population. So in your opinion, how can technology play a more significant role in leveling the playing field?
Yeah, I think technology is in some ways like the ultimate equalizer. It democratizes access to information, but I think it also makes it easier to adopt certain behavior changes. I think there are certain things you can't control. Like I can't control that I'm a first generation college graduate. I can't control that, there weren't a ton of people in my immediate circle growing up who had worked in corporate, but I can control how I manage the relationships that I have now with intention. And I can also control that make sure that I'm giving back to those who come behind me and could use some of the information that I have to help them to avoid making some of the mistakes that I did. And I think whether it be the newsletter feature or the board management feature, it helps to automate some of the busy work of doing that. And I'm hoping we achieve this. I call it kind of a social contagion or cultural contagion, where the behavior of having a board isn't so novel, and eventually it becomes, hey, Cody, you said you wanted to do this big thing. Who's going to be on your board? Like, it's just an expected behavior that you've tapped at least a few people to support you on that journey.
Ooh, I like that. That's
That'd be
powerful.
awesome. Yeah, I wish
I
more
mean,
people would think like that.
yeah, and when we were, back in tribes, like we had elders, we had a board of family members that we would go to and talk to and ask for advice. And so it's almost like bringing that back in a new age way. Are there any things that concern you about technology? We have a lot of conversations about AI and how quickly technology is moving. Do you have any fears around that?
I don't know if fear is the word. I think we could definitely go down the Terminator rabbit hole, but I don't know how useful that is. I think that something that I think people need to be mindful of that will be a byproduct of AI, and we're seeing it already, is it's going to be even harder to differentiate yourself. And what I mean is everybody pretty soon is going to have a perfect resume, and everybody's going to have a perfect LinkedIn with an awesome head byline, and even your headshot may not be you. I'm starting to see that where it's like, this is clearly not a real picture. And I think that, while that can serve as an equalizer for people to have access to that type of guidance, it does mean that for a recruiter, all of these profiles are the same. So how do I differentiate myself? And what I think that's going to lead to is the relationship economy. And so everything that we're talking about is going to become even more important because everyone looks the same. It's going to be, okay, but who had a referral? And I think that's the thing AI will never be able to do, is put in a good word for you or make a warm introduction. And so if you're the one you're differentiating yourself at being the best person at relationships, you're going to win because everybody else on a screen looks exactly the same.
Holy shit, that makes so much freaking sense. Like, I love that. I love that so much, especially as like a huge proponent of AI. So, all right, so talk to us about Pivo. Like, we've waited long enough. We like to make our founders and our guests human before they dive into the scripts and all the things, the pitches that they've got for their product. But I'd love to hear more. Like, tell us more about Pivo and the founding story and all the stuff.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And as I've kind of mentioned a bit, Peadbo, again, is short for Personal Advisory Board. And it really is as simple as every billion-dollar company you can know understands they need a board to help them win. And we believe you should have one too. Like that's the pitch, pretty much, open and shut. But as far as the tool, we've built a tool that makes it easy for you to build and manage not one but multiple boards. So you may have a board for help me to secure promotion to senior manager this promotion cycle, and then you may have another board for this parenting shit is hard. Who are some fathers that I really admire and I can check in with every quarter to help keep me sane. And then you may have another one, these are just the homies. We live everywhere in the country now, and if we're not intentional, we'll go a long time without just chopping it up. So now we have like a quarterly kickback on Zoom just to check in, make sure we're doing good, which I'm blessed enough to have a guy friend group who are super intentional about checking in on each other. We actually do like every few months a call just to see like where we are and who's struggling and just support each other. And I don't think that behavior is common enough among men specifically. And this is a way to kind of create that. But beyond board management, the tool also offers the newsletter manager, to where if your board is 5 or 6 people, how do you stay top of mind with the other 100 or 200 people who want to see you win, and if they knew they could help you, would absolutely do so? It's not a networking platform. There's no never-ending feed for you to scroll through. There are no followers. There are no likes. It is a tool for you to manage your supporter community, whether it be small circles or broader networks.
Interesting. So it's got the newsletter feature. What are some of the other highlight features and things like that, just so people who haven't ever experienced it or seen it can kind of get a feel for what it'd be like to be looking at the dashboard?
Yeah. So in the dashboard, actually, I'll circle back. So even when you're creating a board, it's very intentional in terms of the steps. So you'll identify what the focus of the board is, whether it be professional or personal or something else. Then you'll provide a name for the board to help you to kind of really define what it is and what the intention is. And then you'll actually set the parameters. And so this is intentional, because if you just ask people to mentor you, they don't know what the hell it is. They don't know what that means. They don't know what the commitment is. They don't know how much time you're asking for. And so when you create a board, you may say, this is going to be a year-long board. We're going to meet quarterly. And, we'll meet for an hour, and then I'll meet with board members individually quarterly for 30 minutes. And so now I can ask you for 6 hours a year. People are so much more likely to say yes to that than mentorship, because mentor is just such a heavy word. And so you'll create those parameters, you'll choose those dates. And we made it to where you choose the dates because we don't want you to spend 6 weeks trying to get a bunch of people's calendar together. Somebody's going to have to miss the board meeting because people are busy. But they're at least now set in on your calendar so that you have it, you have it to look forward to. Then if you want, you can draft either a kind of general board invite, hey, you guys are awesome, throw some flattery in there. I love your journey. I admire, would love for you to be on my board to help me do X, Y, Z, or personalized. So for each person. And I encourage that because it feels a bit more intimate. And then the tool automated sending out those invites. Once someone opts in to be on your board, they'll get those board invites automatically sent to them. And the important thing for them is they're done. All they have to do is show up. We built this so that board members don't have to use it, don't have to manage another tool, don't have to download another app. They just now have your board meetings on their calendar so that they can show up, add value. And then for you have a dashboard where you can see who the board members are. You can add new board members. You can create new meetings, new check-ins. But you also have a activity completion percentage. So that is the accountability. If you're in a board meeting in January and you're trying to get into cybersecurity and one of your board members says, hey, there's this certification I know this company does, you should get it. You track that and you assign them as the assigner. And then now when you complete that, they'll get a notification. Hey, Keith did the thing. And this helps you to kind of keep it all in one place. And what we're learning is this is a cheat code for turning mentors into sponsors. And what I mean is, mentors are people who will tell you what you should do. And that's valuable. It's useful insights. But sponsors, I think sponsorship is a different level of access. I told you what you should do, but now I'm going to go into that room and I'm going to tell them how great you are and how they should take a chance on you. or I'm going to give you access to my contacts so that you now have people in different rooms. And the problem with sponsorship, as amazing as it is you often need to work with someone for them to feel comfortable speaking to some of those attributes. But if you have a board and you meet with your board in January, and then you come back in April and you've done everything, and then you come back in July and you've done everything, you're now building like a credit score. Like, oh, this person is serious. This person is showing follow through. I'm much more comfortable putting my name on the line to say this is something you should actually look into, or this is someone you should actually consider bringing on to your team, even though they don't meet all the requirements on the job description. And that's how it works for most jobs. It's not who checks every box. It's who has someone that has an in that can help them to gain access to the role. And this is a way for you to kind of hack that.
Damn. I like it. What's who uses this the most? Like what's like the ideal client for you guys?
Yeah, and so we've been learning some really cool insights from users. I'd say the biggest user group right now are actually graduate students and early career professionals. So they are either preparing for this oh shit moment where now they're about to be like grown-ups and have real jobs, or they're on the other side of that. They're in the job and they recognize, I don't necessarily know how to win here. I've been a student for 16 years. I'm really good at that. This is something different. How do I make sure I build support around myself to really optimize my success? A few other niche user groups are mid-career professional women of color, and some undergrad, juniors and seniors in college as well.
I like that. What so you have an expertise around mentorship and these. What are some of the biggest mistakes people make when building these boards or trying to find a mentor? You mentioned some, but are there any other ones that stand out?
Yeah, I think the biggest one is kind of getting in their own way. So many people are like, "Oh yeah, man, this is amazing, man. I'm gonna do it as soon as I accomplish this goal and I'm ready." And I think that's the worst way to think. It was like, no, do it now, so that even the thing you're working on, you now have people who can support you. It's not something where you need to, have all these boxes checked to be prepared to have a board. And what you'll learn and what our users experience is once they have that first board meeting and see what it feels like to have their success be a group project, they're kind of addicted. And so don't wait. Don't talk yourself out of it. And I get that it's a bit intimidating, the idea of having a board, the idea of having, these people kind of coaching you all at once. But once you're in it, you recognize that this is now going to separate me from all of my peers who aren't doing this.
Completely agree with that. Are there any, when it comes to searching for a specific member or mentor, are there any green flags or red flags that someone should look out for?
I think green flags they challenge you in ways that like are a bit uncomfortable.
Ooh.
One of my personas for board members is the challenger. I think it's the most important, and they're probably not going to be your favorite board member, but they're going to help you to identify. They're going to help you to identify blind spots. You're going to come in with this really amazing story of how you're going to do it, and they're going to say, "Let me tell you why that's not going to work, because this, and this," and it's not going to feel great, but now these are no longer blind spots, and you can continue to level up. I think red flags are just people who are inconsistent. Or people who may have ulterior motives. Like I have people tell me all the time, "Oh man, if you just turn this into a marketplace where I can just charge people to be on their board." No. No, I think that there are plenty of tools that exist where you can say, for $100, you could talk to me for 30 minutes and I'm going to give you the same advice I give everybody else because this is a side business for me. Whereas if I'm asking you for 6 hours a year and you feel like you need to charge me, maybe you're not the best fit to be on my board.
Damn, mic drop. All right. So what is the revenue model? Like how do you guys make money? How do people sign up? Like how do they get started with this?
Of course. So it's subscription based, but there is a freemium tier. So anybody who's even a little bit curious could sign up right now. They can go to peadbo.com, or I think it's app.peadbo.com if you want to just get straight to the application part. Sign up and test it out. But if you wanted to access the full platform, which allows you to build as many boards as you want, as many newsletter recipients as you want, that's just $9 a year, or 99, or nine bucks a month. Sorry, $99 a year. So
Damn.
I never wanted money to be a reason somebody didn't do this, because I truly believe in its value. But then on the B2B side, universities, employers, workforce development organizations, they get a huge discount because they're buying licenses in bulk. But then we also provide them with matchmaking services. So for alums, how do you engage alums for a university without asking for money? You ask them to donate 6 hours a year, serve on the board of a rising senior, and now you're able to kind of accomplish 2 tasks.
Dang, that is
That's
awesome.
smart. I
I
like
want to bring
that.
that to
Yeah.
my college.
Yeah, I mean, most of my schools, when I hear from them, they want money. But if they ask me to be on a board, I'd be much more likely to donate some time and talent and keep a little treasure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
definitely feel that.
In terms of marketing Pivo and getting more people on the platform, what's been working best for you? Has it been social media? Has it been more like in-person events and networking?
It's been a mix of, word of mouth, but also I do a lot of workshops. And so at conferences where I believe there's an audience that will really resonate with what we're doing, I do a workshop on, building your board just to introduce the concept. I do recognize though that I'll need to find someone who's on TikTok and help me to build a TikTok strategy. It's not somewhere I spend a lot of time, but I know the people that need this the most are there. And so we're in the process of thinking of what that might look like. And so if you're listening and you're a TikTok expert, please shoot me a note.
TikTok
yeah.
experts love it.
It's I never really adopted. I think I resisted it so much that now I feel like overwhelmed when I get on there, and I'm like, oh no, close it. It's too much. But I know that there's a ton of value that we can unlock on socials that we haven't been doing just yet.
You need your own TikTok Pivo.
Yes, I do. And if
That's
you have
such-
recommendations,
I can help with that too.
yeah, if you know who can help, or if you can help, let's talk offline, because again, I also know that if I go down that rabbit hole as the founder and CEO, I'm going to be stealing time from, working on the business, working on strategic partnerships and other things. So I'll need to delegate that for sure.
That's fair. That makes a lot of sense. What's, as far as the future, the future TikTok star Keith, outside of that, what is, just kidding. What's on the horizon for Pivo? Like, what are new features? What do you see, like, initiatives that are coming up? Anything like that?
So I can't say too much about features that are in pipeline, but you talked about AI, machine learning. That is definitely in play, but I think in a very strategic way, right? This is a people first platform, but I do recognize the value that AI and machine learning can provide in terms of giving, aggregated insights to a buyer about how they could support their people better, making it easier to send out your newsletter and understand what makes a newsletter more effective, things like that. And then also, just like I said, more strategic partnerships. We're learning that, some really major companies like what we're doing, and they may be able to help us to gain additional exposure to some of their audience, which is going to be, huge for us.
So, what would you say you guys are becoming? Like, what's your vision for, like, Pivo? Like, long term?
I think long term, it just becomes the default. Who's on your Pivo? Why aren't you on anybody's board? It's an I think of it as this. LinkedIn accomplished something that's really powerful, and that's they became kind of a core component of your professional journey, right? Prior to LinkedIn, you had a resume, a cover letter, maybe references, but now you have those, and of course you have the LinkedIn. And I want Pivo to be now you have those and LinkedIn, and of course you have a Pivo, and of course you have a personal newsletter, because that's how you do it. And if you're not doing that, why are you missing out on such a big opportunity?
That is a freaking savage vision for the future. I love that, my man.
Yeah, I do too. I could like we just talked about with the TikTok thing, social media, anything you want to accomplish. It's like you could also have a personal Pivo. I want to get really fit or run a marathon. Well, I can have 3 or 4 people on my board that have done that before and have excelled at it. And so you can apply this to so many things just beyond business. And I really like that approach to parenthood as well.
No, absolutely. One of our first eye openers was when we were doing non-technical pilots, and there was a woman who, we had been talking about professional growth, and she said, "This is awesome, but I lost my spouse and I didn't sign up to be a single mother. And so I think I'm going to do this for that journey." And it was just like, yeah, you need this for pretty much anything hard. You just have to recognize it and be intentional about making it happen.
That just clicked something in my. I work in trauma recovery with clients all the time. Like this is such a great. One of the first things I'd suggest to them is get away from the negative environment and get into a more healthy, positive environment and
Absolutely.
around healthier people, because your environment is the largest predictor of your feelings, thoughts, and actions. And so
Mm.
that just clicked in my brain so much as far as like trauma recovery, mental and emotional health. Like
Hmm.
that's
No, I think
that's
so. I
huge.
think trauma recovery, we've already been talking about returning citizens, so those who are incarcerated. How do you set them up for
Damn.
success when they get out? How do you build a community around them so that they don't recidivate? Or even veterans, they've endured, they've paid this amazing sacrifice, and often nobody understands their journey. And so why not have a board of other veterans to where we may live anywhere in the world, but we have our quarterly check-in to hold each other accountable, to support each other, and make sure that we're positioning ourselves to make that transition back to kind of quote unquote normal that we can have.
And that's possible. Like, let's just pretend a user wanted to hop on and use it for that purpose. It doesn't have to be business. They could use it however they want. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
absolutely. Absolutely. I would suggest, all of our users create multiple boards because there are so many hard things that at the very least just having a peer Peadbo, it's not necessarily always all these people are smarter than me and they're teaching me. It's, hey, these are people who are going through the same things I am. And now we have this structure to hold each other accountable, to support each other, and to make sure that, we're lifting each other while we climb.
This is awesome. This should be a requirement for jobs, like, or companies to have each of their employees to have this. Like colleges should make sure every one of their like graduates has a Pivo as they go into the real world. Like this is cool. I like this.
Thank you.
That the grieving lady really just blew open my mind a little bit on some of this, because I was in
Yeah.
a certain
Yeah.
like tunnel vision
It's
frame kind of.
Yeah, and
Now
I
I'm
mean we
just like,
emphasize heavy on the professional, but there's just so many hard things, hard journeys that we're all on, and so why try to do it alone if you don't have to?
that's insane. I love that. Cool. Well, all right. That's a great way to kind of bring us in for a landing a little bit here. Like I mentioned at the beginning, we like to do some signature questions. And the first question is my favorite, which is, what's a question that you wish people asked you more often?
Ooh, what's a question I wish people ask more often? How can I help? Right? I think that I've gotten to a place to where I now have an answer. I think the default is to say, "Oh no, I'm fine," and I'm learning through the Peebo journey, but also through life. Like it's okay to actually answer that question, and often people who are asking really want you to. So yeah, if you ask me how you can help, I'll probably have at least two things that you can help with, and if you can't, no worries, you ask.
We had a guest yesterday that he's the founder of Kokoro, and he said something similar. So and I just love it. I love it. Us guys asking for help. So how can we help? What do you need help with right now, buddy?
Awareness, man. Talk about it, and that's usually my most
Deal.
common. Just talk about it. I think that when people are curious enough to go to the website or even like create an account and start to poke around, they at the very least want to try sending a newsletter, and I think that's kind of the first step to saying, "Oh, this is something that I could see myself adopting." And so that's the biggest thing you could help with is just talking about us.
Awesome. Right on.
Check.
Perfect. What's a specific partnership or connection that would really help you outside of them just giving you money?
Feels like a question I should not fumble. Trying to think of who would have the biggest reach or impact. Hmm. Gosh, this is tough. Um,
It's okay.
yeah, I don't know. Just a big university or a large company, Charo, who can, help us to pilot with their company and provide value. So pretty open-ended, but, someone who has the decision-making authority to say, let's use this.
Perfect.
Big organizations with CHROs that could use this and help their people, sounds like.
Yeah.
Boom. Cool. We got tons of people like that in the audience, I'm sure. So
Awesome.
all right.
Well,
So something that
great
we
job.
also do here is every guest leaves a question. Previous guest leaves a question for the next one. Okay. Pull it from Diary of the CEO. I love that. So Kokoro, the guy that I was telling you about, Marco, he's the one who left you this question. And his question for you is, what's the greatest challenge facing society today? Easy squeezy.
That's not a loaded question at all.
I know.
I think the greatest challenge facing society today might be comparison. And I don't know if it is obviously a challenge, but I feel like it's one of the biggest contributors to sadness, to depression, to frustration with what you have. And because we're in an age where we have so much information to compare our lives to, it can be really easy to, to give a sports analogy, to compare your full season of footage to somebody's highlight reel. Because all you see is the shots they made, but all the shots you missed. Whereas in reality, they're missing shots too. And so I think comparison is the tough one.
That was a great analogy.
Thank you.
Saving that one for later. Absolutely.
All yours. All yours.
And what's a good question we should ask the next company?
Ask them who would be on their personal advisory board.
I'm typing it. Who would be?
There it is.
We can use the name too, so they know we can get you some more awareness, which is one of the things you need help with.
And then after, say there's a tool for that.
Yeah, we got to do that.
Yeah, there's a tool for that. I'll put that in parentheses. There's a tool for that.
All right, Keith, and is there anywhere you want to send people, social media accounts, websites? Where can people find you and find Pivo?
Yeah, absolutely. Peadbo.com is the main website. On Instagram, I think it's Peadbo. On Twitter or X, I think it's Get Peadbo. But if you're interested in volunteering to serve on somebody's board, which is a commitment of 6 hours per year, and I believe you can do that, go to peadbo.com/volunteer and create a volunteer account, and we will do our best to match you with someone who is a good fit.
Beautiful.
What a cool opportunity. I like that. That's amazing. Great call to action. Cool. And we'll make sure to put all the links in the description just in case you forgot the @ on one of them or something like that.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah, we appreciate you hopping on here with us. Anything else you want to leave the audience with?
Self-made is a myth. So if you're trying to do it by yourself, just try to shift that mindset and see who can help you, because you'll be surprised who's willing.
Great.
Fire.
Couldn't end it better. If you guys haven't liked and subscribed already on YouTube, please do so. But otherwise, thank y'all, and we'll see you next time.